to More Sewing with Michele. This week, we're going to be gnoming it all up, and I'm going to be showcasing these mythological creatures from European folklore. Now, this is the Accuquilt die cutting systems die, and it's called the Gnome, and I'm going to be featuring how to use it, what to do with it. I've got some samples, and I can't wait to dig in and show you everything I have for you this week on More Sewing with Michele. Let's get gnoming it up. Okay, so the Accuquilt die cutting system, I'm going to be showing you the different ways that you will actually do the die cutting, and I'll have a little bit demo later. But I want to talk about why die cutting system and what you can do with it. So the Accuquilt company has been around a long time. They originally started as a die cutting system that was used for paper crafting. And for years they had that. And then they decided that they would venture into quilting and help quilters, which is where Accuquilt came from. So die cutting system, let me give you a little bit of my history. Back when my kids were in school, I was the PTA president. I was the classroom mom pretty much, so every year in my kids' classrooms, and I am a crafter. So for years I would go into the classrooms, I would do crafts, I would help the teachers, I would go to the material center at the district office, use their big industrial type die cuts, and I fell in love with die cutting way back then. Simply because of the ease. It allows you to cut multiple layers at the same time with precision. So I often would go and take, 3 classrooms worth of stuff, do a craft, and I could get all of the cutting done of that paper done in just a fraction of the time that would have taken me to cut around those different shapes. So it's absolutely made for speeding the process along. And just so you know I've said this before, but who likes cutting fabric for a project? Not me. It is absolutely my most disliked thing that has to do with any of my sewing, either for making clothing or for embroidery or for even just doing quilting. Cutting the fabric is not where I get enjoyment. I get enjoyment with sewing it together and the finished product. So if I can cut down on that time, I absolutely want to do that, which is why these die cuts are going to help you, because you can cut, depending upon your fabric, 6 layers at least at a time. So these dies, you can see, I'm going to show you here, it's got 2 colors of the foam, and then it's got a blade here. Now this blade isn't going to cut you. I can push on it really hard here, and I'm not bleeding, but when it goes through the system, which rolls, it puts more pressure on it, and that will cut the fabric. So those blades are totally useful. You want to protect them at all costs. And you can see where you need to put your fabric. So you're not going to have a lot of wasteful fabric. It wouldn't be any more than if you were cutting around the pieces old school by hand anyways. So I like to lay my fabrics on top. You can see exactly where they go and put them through. And like I said, I will be giving a demo in just a little bit. But they're made to last. This foam is really good. These dies will last you for years. I think normally 100 at least cuts per die, and if you're doing 6 at a time, it's definitely going to last you for years to come. One thing that you may want to know is, yes, you can cut other things other than fabric with our Accuquilt dies, but what I want you to do is treat your Accuquilt dies just like you would your favorite pair of fabric scissors. You know, the one your husband goes to use and you go, no, don't use that. That is my fabric scissors. That's the one that we want you to treat your dies like. These dies are different than the ones that were made for paper crafting. And just like your scissors, you don't want them to get dull being used on other mediums as paper, plastic, that type of thing. They can use it. You can absolutely cut all the different mediums with these dies, but you really want to treat your fabric dies with a little bit more care and kind of have them be sacred for just that fabric so they stay sharp and cut your fabrics perfectly. So that's the dies. You can see that they have a little bit of height to them. Now there is one thing that is a consumable when you do the AccuQuilting, and that's our cutting mats. So this is the one thing that you are going to be purchasing more frequently, not the die. And they, we will have these also, but they come with the AccuQuilt system, and then you can pick up replacements. And they're not expensive, but what they are is they're the shim. Once you put your fabric on, you put this through, and like I said, I'm going to be showing you a demo in just a little bit. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some additional cutting mats as well. Now let me show you what you can do with this. Now, gnomes, I'm going to give you a little bit of information, but a group of gnomes is called a danse. And look what I made. I made a danse of little gnomes here. So we've got 6 of them. And I went ahead and I used my die cutting system, cut them out with different fabrics, and then I did free motion stitching around them to kind of secure to the tea towel that I have here. Now, what you do is you get your favorite double-sided adhesive for fabrics, and I pre-fuse just pieces of, for this case, I did mostly scrap fabrics, but I've got a bunch that I will be showing. And, little pieces for the shoes or the nose, and just a variety of stuff. You're going to pre-fuse, and this die is going to cut right through that pre-fused fabric as well, multiple layers. So what I want to show you is, in Scandinavia, gnomes are associated with Christmas time. And this one, I made this adorable little mini quilt using our gnome die. And you'll see that I just had him be the feature of it. And I simply added borders around him, added a little bit more applique, and then I did free motion stitching around to accent as well as straight line stitching. So just a fun little thing that you can do. And once again, gnomes are not just for Christmas anymore. If you haven't noticed, they seem to pop up everywhere. I've seen them in commercials. They're in your garden, which they've been there for years. And that all started, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but gnomes are kind of everywhere. So you don't need to limit yourself to using it as just a Christmas little accent around your house. They literally can be for any time of the year. And one of the things that I was so excited to showcase with you and to show is that on the AccuQuilt system website, once you purchase the die, you can get a free download that will do the detailed stitches around your gnomes. So look at this. I went ahead and stitched out, I die cutted my fabrics, and then I put it in the hoop, and I added them to an embroidery file. And there's 3 different stitches that will stitch around your gnomes, but isn't that cool? So you can incorporate your die cutting machine 100% with your embroidery machine. Absolutely cool. And I love the blanket stitch. It's got, like I said, 3 different stitches, and it was really fun to do, and it just took a little bit of time. So super fun to incorporate your AccuQuilt along with your embroidery machine. And that just think about all the different things that you can do. It just completely ratchets up the amount of things that you can do creatively with your die cut. And it's just fun, super fun. I think once you get in the hang of it, you're just gonna like be die cutting and doing applique all over the place. So at least I know that's what happens with me. So let me show you a little bit closer how to use this system. Okay, once again, we have our danse here of gnomes, and you can see up close here all the different pieces that we have. Now this particular die for the gnomes, you'll see that we have 5 different pieces that it's going to cut at the same time, which is also going to save you time as far as what you're going to be putting in for cutting. We have the beard here, we have their hat, we have the dress or the clothing for the gnome, as well as his little nose and his feet. So what I like to do is I plan out what I'm going to do. And once again, like I showed you, let me take this away. I'm going to put our little Donce away again. And what I like to do is I like to take my scrap fabrics and I pre-fuse them. So you can see I have a box here of just pre-fused fabrics in a variety of patterns and colors. And then what I do is I take my die and I plan out. So let's see, I've got this that I want to use for his little outfit. And then I'm going to do this one too, and I'll layer those on top of each other. And let's do this one for his hat and this one as well, making sure that they don't overlap. Now for the nose I'm going to simply fold this fabric in half and I'm going to put it on there, as well as for the shoes. The shoes, it's just a black piece of fabric that I folded in half, and I'll lay that on top, and I'll do the same for the nose. So we have those there. And then for the beard, I've got this one that's kind of gray batik, and then I've got a leftover piece of white. I'm going to simply put those over where the beard is. And then what you do for the die cutting is you simply lay your cutting mat, the consumable, on top. And then you'll notice that the machine is on. We've got our green light here. And I'm simply going to butt it up to the start, and the machine does the rest. It will pull it through. And when it's done, just like that, you'll see that I get my pieces cut out. So we've got a hat. Here's the other beard. We've got the clothing here. And another one there. We've got our little shoes. I'm going to put out, we've got our two little noses. And one more set of shoes. And another hat. So with that, you can take these and layer them out. And it's so much fun because you have a little bit of options here as far as how you piece them. So let's take this one. I'm going to add the little shoes to the bottom. And it's got a little bit of fluff there. Add that to the bottom. The next thing that you do is add a beard. So I'm going to add this little beard. And depending upon where you do your beard, you can make him appear to be a little taller. And then add the hat, and then the little nose. And just like that, you've got your little Gnome taking shape. So you can do that. You can change him up. It could be like a paper doll. You can have him have a blue hat. You can pull his hat down lower to make his face a little squattier. You can pull his clothing up tall. So you really have lots of options as far as what he's going to look like. And it is so much fun. Literally, when I was doing this, it was like when I was young and I had paper dolls and I'd cut them out and kind of play around and decide what I want to do. So that's how easy it is. So with this system, this is the Go Big Accuquilt die cutting machine. And keep in mind, like always, if you go to our website, moors-sew.com, you're going to be able to click on the link for More Sewing with Michele, and we're going to have these products there easily for you to click on so that you can purchase them. But this is, like I said, the Go Big. And let me talk about a little bit of the features. Now this machine, it will close up to a smaller footprint, and it's got a handle here, so it's easier to carry around. Now this is the electronic machine. And I love it because it accommodates the largest size dies that they offer at Accuquilt. And you don't have to crank or have to physically do the labor. It's got electric. And like I said, as we saw, I will do another little pass through real quick. Let's add some more fabric in. Once you decide what you want to cut, you simply lay it on, put your mat on top, and then I simply butt it up to the start here, and the machine will grab it and pull that die through and do the rest. It's that simple. Super fun, super easy, and like I said, if you are trying to save time, or if you're doing a quilt where you're doing just a bunch of these little gnomes, it's going to be super easy for you to set them up, get them all cut out, and it's going to save you so much time. I can't stress enough how much I dislike cutting fabric. And that's, like I said, one of the biggest things that I dislike about quilting or sewing is getting everything prepped and ready to go. So it's really going to cut down on your time and make it a lot more fun. Now, some of the other things that Accuquilt has thought of, they think about us quilters, is on some of their other dies, they'll offer 1/4-inch seam allowance. They'll cut off the dog ears. So it's one of these things that this machine, as well as the dies, is going to give you years of use, and you're going to be creating lots of fun things with them. Now, let me talk a little bit about gnomes. So they've been around since the 16th century. Let me pull my little ones up here so you can see a close-up of these. Gnomes have been around since the 16th century, and in 1847, Sir Charles Isham brought 21 gnomes from Germany to England in his estate. And that's what started the whole garden gnome craze. In fact, one of his gnomes, believe it or not, is named Lumpy, and he is insured for £1 million there in England. They don't mess around when it comes to gnomes. Gnomes are earthly spirits that live underground and protect precious treasures like gold, livestock, as well as the lands and the crops that go along with them. So they've been around for years. They have been rumored to live for 500 years, and female gnomes are called gnomids, and they have beards, believe it or not. And just so you know, I know everyone's heard of gnomes, and some of the most famous gnomes are, believe it or not, the 7 Dwarves. The 7 Dwarves were gnomes, as well as J.R.R. Tolkien has written about gnomes for his years in his career. Leprechauns are also gnomes. So gnomes, like I said, they've been around a long time. They kind of come and go in and out of culture, but they have never left a lot of places. And in Europe, you'll see them all over. I know that people use them in their garden, and now I have them in my house. So gnomes are great. And they are, once again, not just for Christmas time. You can use them any time of the year. Typically, though, gnomes will have a red hat and a long white or gray beard. That's the typical thing for gnomes. But, you know, these days, gnomes look like anything. So you can see here, this is the downloaded Accuquilt embroidery file where we have the blanket stitch around. This is a satin stitch. And then this is, I'm not sure the name of it. It's not quite a star, but it is another decorative stitch that goes around these gnomes. So super, super fun. I love that we can incorporate our embroidery machines along with our Accuquilt die cutting system. And once again, this is the Go Big, and you're going to want to go to moors-sew.com or click on the link. So, Gnome'in It Up. First off, I just want to stress, let's get rid of hand fatigue and the frustration of cutting repetitive things over and over and over. I know that I've been guilty of this for years. When I make a quilt, you're going to cut those same pieces over and over and over, and it just gets tiresome. It gets boring, and like I said, there's a reason why I don't like cutting the fabric. But this Accuquilt system will make it fun. Let them take that frustration and the fatigue right away and get to the fun part of sewing, either for embroidery or quilting. And like I said, these gnomes go everywhere. They can accent anything in the house that you have. So Keep in mind the system will cut multiple layers at a time. What I like to do is I test it different layers depending upon if you have an adhesive on it or not. And then you can do at least 6 layers. I've been known to do up to 10 to 12 depending upon the type of fabric you're using as well. So if you're using just regular cotton fabric, you're going to be able to do more layers. And obviously if you're using something like a canvas or vinyl, that's going to be reduced significantly. So you're going to want to test it like most things to make sure that you get the best cutting from your machine. As well as the Accuquilt die cutting machine, they offer hundreds of dies. So once you get the machine and you get going, there are just limitless things that you can do with this system. And that Gnome die, oh my gosh, he is just so cute, and you're going to find lots of things to do with him as well. And all dies are made right here in the USA. Woohoo! I love that. And these dies are great for children. They love to use the machine as well as adults too. So you can incorporate the whole family in your crafting. So with that, let's have the Dante say goodbye to my tea towel here that I made. And I hope that you enjoyed Gnome'in It Up here with me on More Sewing with Michele. Keep in mind, click on the link in the description to go to my landing page where you can purchase this wonderful Accuquilt Gnome die, as well as the system or any other products that you need to complete. We are a one-stop sewing, embroidery quilting store, so you can get what you need. I hope you have a fabulous day. And from the Dante and me, be safe out there, and I'll see you next week on More Sewing with Michele. Bye-bye.